All right, we're going back live. I'm out of breath. We got well over a foot of snow up here in northern Vermont, and I was right in the middle of a live. My father showed up to plow, and duty calls. Move some vehicles around, move some snow, a little bit of shoveling. Snow banks are completely out of control. Nowhere to put it. But anyway, we'll get back into it here. We were on the single family house. 18% dug out on the foundation. My fingers are frozen solid, so we'll see how well the controls go here. Ooh, finally catching my breath a little. Getting a lot of shape in my old age, I guess. Can't say I'm old. 36. 36. But it certainly is a lot of work moving all that snow. It's been a busy week. We're on top of getting dumped on in snow and working full time. 5 kids. We decided to take on doing room by room remodel in the house. It's just taking up quite a bit of time. I'm still trying to get a little time to get on here and go live and relax a little bit when I can. It's almost nice. This game gives me that opportunity to just online relax. I love sitting here just baling dirt like this into a truck, not thinking about anything for a little bit. I've seen a lot of people relate too on Facebook. There's a lot of pages that are dedicated to this game, and a lot of people say the same thing, how it's a very relaxing game. I guess I would be assuming you're fluent with operating equipment. I assume if you're not, it could be a little frustrating to try and play, but the truck is loading a little bit weird out to the rear. See if that don't make a little bit more room, I guess. Yeah, as I was saying, doing quite a bit of remodeling around the house. I have a double wide mobile home. It's 10 years old now. They manufacture these ones down in Pennsylvania, but it's your typical mobile home. It's pre-wallpapered sheetrock panels, 4x8. They're stripped in between. We're taking all the strips out, mud and taping the seams and skim coating everything, and trying to get it to look a little bit more like a home. Not that I guess a mobile home isn't a home, but more like a house. But 36% here on this foundation, the first of two. There is another foundation right behind me that will be dug out shortly after. We're basically cornered in here with this job. We have road frontage here, road frontage here. Other than that, we're all fenced in, so there's really only one access point for trucking, so we're going to work our way from the furthest corner into the fencing, back out to the road. That way you're not working yourself back in, working back over the top of where you've already been. The goal is once we backtrack out of here, what we've dug is final product, we're happy with it, we won't go back in here. Truck is still loading a little bit to the rear, which I think is it's a game glitch a little bit. I think if you have your you see the yellow line where the outside of the job site is, we have to dig out, and you can see where the material's loading in the back of the truck. It's really prominent on this side of that line, so I think what we'll have to do is just move the truck forward and get it out of the perimeter of the job site. Ooh, out of body experience. Yeah, it's just loading weird for some reason, so we'll shoot it forward a little bit, see if that helps things. Really reaching quite a ways here. We'll see if we can get closer to the truck. Still reach out to the end of that pile. That's that other foundation out here that we have to dig after. A little bit smaller. Not sure how deep that one's going to be either. Guess we'll just keep pushing the top of that pile off every time we load. Guess we'll swing left for realistic like stuff. Basically, in real life, more often than not, you find operators trying to swing left because you can look out here and see what's going on before you get to that point of swinging, versus if you're swinging to the right, you're pretty well blind to most things. I have got the dozer all set up. I'm not sure if I'll even need it. I got the roller set up to my left. I am going to need that. I checked the job real quick before I hopped on the first time, and I do know there's compacting right after this, and I think probably some gravel delivery or something. I'm not sure if these are just going to be slabs. They're obviously not deep enough to be foundations. Well, they call them foundations, but I think theoretically a foundation is like a cellar hole. I don't know. Maybe that's just terms up here, and that's what we call them. But usually, a foundation is a cellar hole, and a slab is a slab. Unless these are going to be dug out deeper into foundation holes at some point. Really struggling to swing left for some reason tonight. Clean up the edges a little bit. It's not necessary. They clean them up for you when you're done. It's not much to enjoy on this game other than swinging machinery around, so you might as well get what you can out of it. There I go right again. I did buy a truck and trailer since the last time I played too. I ended up with a pretty good chunk of money off that last. It's been 4 or 5 days since I played, so I guess I kind of forgot where I was at, but I did buy the truck and trailer so I can transport my equipment on my own now instead of fast traveling it. Quite a ways away from the gravel pit, so I think I'm going to stick to, if I have any jobs up this way, I'll use a gravel pit. But otherwise, I'm not going to waste my time on live driving back and forth. I'll just jump in real quick and we'll auto dump. Still pays out $5,171. I'm at 54%, so I'm essentially going to get pretty much 2 loads out of this, so 10 grand just by loading it out instead of pushing it all off to the side. It's certainly an option in this game. You can just jump in a dozer and you can put the blade down and you can just push all this stuff right out the borders until you're at 100%. Have it done in a matter of minutes. But it really takes away from a lot, I guess, but it's all in how you want to experience it. A lot of people get really judgy how people play this game, not playing it realistic enough, you're rushing through it, you're this, you're that. It's also a big age group of people that are playing this, and a wide span of people that some are into construction and some really aren't. They don't care. They have no idea, and they're just doing it because they found it and it looked fun. You know, if you would have gave me this game when I was 7 years old, my mother would have to drag me by my ankles to get me out of my bedroom. I've always been obsessed with excavators and anything in the construction industry. I think it's just really neat. And so when I got the opportunity to get this game, I jumped on it. I guess for a matter of timing, it doesn't make much sense to swing left coming back out of that, which is, you know, counterintuitive, counterproductive, counter whatever of what I said before, but I'm not sure the word I'm looking for there. But in terms of swing time versus what you can see and what you can't see, I suppose if you're set up in a spot where you know you're safe to swing either way and nobody's going to be there, swing right to save time. Swing time's pretty big in the excavation world. Usually when you set your trucks up, even if it was set up here, it would save that much less swing time. But the fact of the matter is, setting it up there also gets it out of my way for digging this entire thing out without having to get out and move the truck. Working by myself, I don't ever do the online. Well, I can't say I don't ever. I have done the online thing, but I prefer to play by myself. I'm gonna go ahead and work into the night just a little bit here. Some people aren't fans of it. I think it gives a little bit of diversity for viewing, for one, but for two, I almost prefer it. I like the daylight, but at the same time, the lighting sucks. You get 1 minute per hour in this game. I've mentioned this plenty of times in past lives, but 1 minute is 1 hour, so you have essentially 12 minutes of daylight, 12 minutes of dark. And the 12 minutes of daylight consists of your morning hours and your evening hours, which are very dark and shady. You can't quite see. Sometimes the holes you're digging get really dark and you can't see down inside where you're working. You're kind of just doing a little bit of guesswork. Versus in the night, you get your light shining on there and you can see the differences in the height of the material, I guess, a little bit better. It's the best way to explain it. I don't know if that's the best way to explain it, but see the definition in it better. I think I've pretty well worked that area to the point where I can't do much more with it other than just scraping a little bit. Whoops. A few spots there that I got. We'll start working this. back toward us. I think once I've worked to the point of only having what I have underneath me, I'll work my way right back out toward that roller. I'll finish this a little bit, and then I'll set into that other foundation, maybe set the truck up either where the roller is or over on roadside, and we'll work that one out just the same way. 76% on this one here, so we're making pretty good progress. Habit of shaking that bucket. There is zero need to shake a bucket level in this game, but I guess you run one long enough in real life and you keep shaking your buckets level, it just becomes a second nature thing. It's hard to not shake a bucket level. Trying to walk my way a little bit closer to the truck as I load out, getting closer to this yellow line. The thing you want to watch out for is your counterweight. Obviously swinging right and swinging back toward the truck, I've got just my window. This is really the only longest point on it in my swing, other than obviously my bucket and my sticks hanging out there. On the cab, this is your closest point. But if I swing around as I get any closer to that truck, I'm getting to a point where any closer and I'm going to come in contact with it, so I want to make sure I don't swing that way. I keep all my swings here and back to the truck. It's easy to forget that behind you, especially when you're focused on what's happening with that bucket. It's almost, of course, most of these jobs you've got nothing above you, but you could work in some areas that are really in the trees and what have you, and it's almost hard to remember as you're curling up like this where the top of that is. Sometimes you get that up into trees and what have you. Of course, one of the most famous things I think online that you see a lot is people getting into power lines. It can get very dangerous, but you got to remember where everything's at all times when you're swinging this much iron around. Sounds like something Arnold Schwarzenegger would say. Watch what you're doing, swinging this much iron around. %. Making some pretty steady progress here. Wow. Struggling. It's hard not having a solid base. I wish there was some way where they could make it where your bucket wouldn't drop any lower than here. But as soon as you curl to that point, you can just phase everything right down through. Getting pretty close to being at that point where I'm going to have to make some decisions on moving this thing, loading out that last little bit. That's probably our best bet. We just make a quick jump turn. Whoa, it's like doing a jump turn on ice. That'll leave us close enough where we can reach out to the end, get the last of this and load it into the truck. So I dug outside my line a little bit there on that last swipe, trying to clean up the edge. Okay, just like that, we're at 100%. Didn't have to dig out much of any of that corner. Job scope is set at high, but even with job scope set at high, out of 100%, all that material right there still could be dug out. Theoretically, if you leave your machine inside the blue and don't X out of it, you could load it out and get your money for it. But again, for viewers' sake and boredom, I'm not going to sit here and continue to dig out any more than I have to. We'll back our way out of it. And boom, there it goes. Quite a bit of material underneath the tracks here. I think this is going to be just a little bit here. And the further back we come, that's going to get a little bit deeper. We'll do a quick test hole and just see where bottom is. Yeah, barely scraping it there. So we'll have this little bit right underneath us. I think we're not going to set the truck up here, obviously, because there's a hole there. A little bit tight to fit it here. How much it sucks to spin around 180 degrees every time. I think just setting it over and setting it right where that roller is probably our best bet. Aside from right there in the road, but I'd rather not be in the road if I don't have to. Boy, I'm not even 100% positive where I'm going to put this thing. I guess I'll just leave it roadside here. Pop it up onto the curb, because that's not bad for the concrete or anything. And we'll leave it right there. Let's see if we're anywhere near where we need to be. Oh yeah, I think we can work with that. I think I might be better off setting myself center on this hole. Maybe I can reach both sides at once, I guess. I'm 33% done on the excavation here. Definitely a good amount of digging here at the beginning of this one. We could have saved a little time with a bucket loader. I don't own one yet. I could have rented one. I'm trying not to rent. Finally getting to the point after a few campaigns and contracts that I've got enough money where I actually own all this equipment plus the truck and trailer that I've got. The only thing I'm renting right now is that roller, which I'll probably end up buying a roller after this one just because compaction seems to be in between every step of every bit of dirt work. So it's going to be needed in every job. So we'll buy one of those. Really hoping to get that Cat 349 right off. If nothing else, if I get a job big enough, I'll probably rent it. This JCB is great, but bucket size just really drags things out a bit. A little over the halfway mark. Alright, I guess I gotta move this truck forward just a little bit. Gain myself enough room so I can back up a bit there, and 60%, so we don't have a huge amount to go. Three-quarters of the way. We're getting there. Sure, it'll be just like the last one. We'll have a little bit left at the end, but it won't let us grab, and we'll advance to the next step. At least made it back into the morning hours, 8:18, well, 8:20 in the morning. 97%. I gotta imagine another scoop or two here will have this. Oh, 99%. Doesn't seem as we have the leftover material that we did in the last hole. But 99%, I think I'm into the hole. I can stay into it enough to see. So that'll 100% us. That little bit is all we have left, so that's why I always say it's really important to make sure when you're digging way back here, you've got everything you possibly can before you work your way back, because if you don't, then you've got to come back into it. Alright, looks like they're going to make us clear the entire construction site. I've got a dog that feels the need to go inside and outside every 10-15 minutes. Okay. Wedged. So go ahead and get that empty. Just being we're taking up most of the street there, we'll park this well out of the way for right now. And I pulled a really stupid move and get that dozer way back in there and got to track through everything I just completed in order to get it out. Of course, I've got to track all this stuff out in the middle of the road in order to clear it from the job site because there's nowhere else to bring it. I'm not sure if it'll show, being we've already completed the last step. No, it still will. You can see, even though it's all digital, it still drags dirt down into your hole and screws up your edges. Which, for the game, it doesn't make a difference. It just drives me bonkers to have to do it. Alright, I'll get a compact. I gotta check and see if I even need this dozer, because this is such a tiny job site that if I really don't need it, I'm probably gonna go ahead and get rid of it and get it out of the way. There is gravel delivery, which means, well, it could be spread with the excavator as well. And we're into concrete, and then we're going to start placing all that material. So if anything, yeah, we got a driveway at the end, and we're going to have to possibly paving stones. I don't think we're going to need the dozer enough to make a difference. I'm at least going to load it up on the truck and trailer for now. We'll keep it off to the side with the truck and trailer, and if we need it, we'll unload it, and if we don't, we'll just leave it loaded up. It'll at least be out of the way. Sometimes a game does really weird things. If you don't have this, if you set it on here and don't tie it down, even if you're not going to keep it there, sometimes it detects that it's on uneven ground or it's in a weird spot. And in between playing now, shutting it down, and then coming back a different day, it will put your dozer in a different location. It'll do some weird stuff. So I usually just try and tie it down if I'm going to set it there temporarily. So we'll set this back onto the job site rather than leave it in the middle of the road. Try and tuck it off to the edge where I had that dozer sitting. And then we'll get to compacting that little bit of an area. I'm going to try and drop down in here and compact this so I can leave the back of my machine coming back up toward the road versus backing up into my material, backing up into that fence, or backing up through the ridges of one foundation to another. I think this will make it the most convenient. A little yellow dot in the bottom right corner confirming that our compaction is on. Kind of one thing to note with realistic construction versus playing this game is usually in real life you get to this point, you would turn your compaction off, you get set back up, and as soon as you're rolling, you turn your compaction back on as you're rolling and you can compact your next row. You compact that all the way to here, turn compaction off, back up, compaction on while you're rolling, and you would essentially roll right back down the same exact spot you just barely rolled to hit it a second time, shut it off, and set yourself over and do it all again. Usually, you got a trigger button on your joystick that you used for your forward and backwards momentum of the roller, so you can kind of do it all in one shot, versus on here you got to hit a few buttons and back and forth through your context menu, so I don't usually worry about it. I just compact it all out, leave the roller on. I guess the meaning behind any of that turning it on and off in reality is if you have one of these rollers, as much as these things weigh in a vibration, you can set a hole in the ground pretty quick just by compacting and vibrating in the same area. So you're, instead of left with a nice level even spot, you end up with a whole bunch of divots and dimples in the ground. That 100%'s that foundation. I think I got enough room with the excavator there. We'll do this one the same way. I'll just set up in the same direction, back up and hit it. Yeah, plenty of room. lacking just 2% here. I think it's just this little edge in that. Oh, there it is. That's all it was, that one little spot. So we now have all of our subgrade compacted. I've covered that in some of the previous lives. Basically, your subgrade is your native soil dug down to its lowest point, and not even necessarily compacted. It's literally just, that's your subgrade. So we're going to bring it up a lift with gravel by the looks. Which will, of course, bring us up to grade. Not quite final grade. Final grade as far as dirt work goes. Your theoretical final grade would be your cement slab going in, and the height of your concrete slab would be your final grade. So you have your subgrade, which is your native soil dug down to its lowest point. Then you have your fills, lifts that go in between. And then you end up eventually with your final grade. I'm going to try my best to tailgate spread a little bit. It's quite difficult in this game. Keep your momentum going and tell how much material you've got down already. I'm going to try to spread this around after the fact with the excavator so that way I don't have to get that dozer back out here. So I'll probably start with about half of this. Just about a full load in the dump truck by the looks. So we'll real quick fill this back with gravel so it's ready to go, and then I'm going to, before I get too far, I'm going to go ahead and jump in there and start leveling some of this out. If you wait too long, you have to track over the top of those giant pyramids that it makes. It unfortunately doesn't lay gravel out nice and smooth like it does in real life. It always comes out like this no matter how you do it. There's really no way to smear this material around. You kind of have to scoop it and level it off, take what you're leveling off, and sprinkle it back elsewhere to gain your percentage. And it still never comes out quite flat. I'm sure if you really worked with it for quite a while, took some time, set your teeth down. Usually your teeth aren't where your the game kind of cuts it at the square edge of the end of the bucket and not so much the teeth. So you'll notice your teeth will go in and dive in and won't cut anything, but the cutting edge on the bucket will. And I'm not really dumping it, I'm more just getting it to the point where it wants to dump and just moving my bucket around. Of course, there's, like anything, a million different ways to skin a cat. You can do this by getting that dozer back out and just pushing around on the dozer. You can get a grader in here. There's all sorts of crazy things I've seen people do. You can probably even, if you're good enough and skilled enough on this game, you could probably even do it with a bucket loader. But this is the most convenient way I've found when you don't want to get a dozer back out onto the job site. Another frustrating part there, you pour it here, your white marker is literally right there and it sets the gravel off 3 feet to the other side. All right. I don't know if I'm going to be able to skim much more off that. We're at 78%. I've got most of this all spread over here. Probably grab a little bit more here. As we take it out, it brought us from 78%, 77%, because of course now that volume is in our bucket. As we turn here and respread it back out, we're now at 81%. So it takes a minute to do it this way, but it works. All right, 82%. I think I'm going to back the truck in. I may just dump one more load right here at the entrance. Spread that. See if I can tell where my tracks are here. We'll set it right there in that corner, kind of, well, I guess center. Oh, we're glitching. Okay. So, I think if we set it right about here, we can pull it out to those edges easy enough. It doesn't even have to be a full load. Already at 82%. I'm sure as we start dumping some, oh, we already filled up. As we start dumping it, we'll notice that we're going to spike up toward the 90% range fairly quick. But we'll get centered up here. Drop a little bit. And then we're not gaining much. 89, 90%. We'll leave it at 90%. 91. Pretty decent little pile there to move around. Alright, that 100%'s that one. Still shows me in this hole. I'm going to take that opportunity real quick, and I'm going to pull some of this material instead of buying more. I'm going to steal a little bit from this side, because that one is already at 100%. And we'll start spreading it across this one. And we'll leave just enough on here to continue to have our gravel spread. Alright, well that obviously puts us at 32% right off the bat without even dumping a load in here out of the truck. There's still a little more here I can steal. Alright, 46%, that's not bad. We have now exited that foundation, which has got rid of our blue marker and leveled out the gravel as much as what was there, so now it obviously looks quite a bit better. And we're down to having to add our own material to this one, which is already at 47%, like I said, because we stole all the other material. And I still got half a load. Don't know if it'll get us all the way there. I've got to got this a dog who wants to come back inside again. Give me a moment here. And we'll start unloading this one right here in the corner. Alright, dumped out the rest of that truckload. Perfectly got to 100% without having to spread anything. Saves us a little bit of working around it. Set this across the road again and of course clear the construction site one more time. And although I've got to clear the job site of this compactor, it happens to be the next piece of equipment that I need on the job. So we'll drive it off just to drive it back onto the job site. Set ourselves right up because I already know we're going to have to start right over in the same corner we did last time, so we'll set right up the same way. Bingo, compacts and gravel. Do the same thing. I'm going to try and set myself a little further to the left here. I missed that last time. Okay, one completely compacted. Working our way into our second night. Okay, so there's both of those completely compacted into 100%. So our single family house job at 12% total. We're going to go ahead and get the roller back out onto the road here, clear the construction site. Let's see what our next step is. I imagine we're going to start setting some material. Our work paid $100,200. We are at that point of setting some material. You can see the gravel is now completely spread out, compacted, looks great. No crane pad on this site, so everything's going to be done with the excavator. Looks like we need two pallets of rebar mesh, which of course are the furthest ones in there. I'm going to try and reach my way out without disturbing that foundation as much as I can. So we're going to have to get back in there. The only reason I'm not swinging this stuff all the way out or backing my way back in is, one, I don't want to, I guess I get too realistic with it at times, but usually if you're gonna track back out onto finished product, you don't want to do it more than you have to. So I'm kind of at a point where I'm already in here. I can get it back, but I also can't swing much further than I am because, as I had mentioned before, you got to watch that counterweight. I'm only about 3 feet from that pallet right there, and if I swing any further, I'm going to be into something before you know it. So I'll leave it at that. It's closer than where it was. I can go ahead and back out of here, get off the gravel. I'll spin my way back up through this way. And I think from here, I can reach at least one. So let's plop one into place. And then we'll go ahead and grab the second one. And we'll just track our way over a little bit closer to get enough reach to get to that last one. Now it wants just to unpack the construction material, which of course is the rebar that we just barely placed. It's never going to ask you to unpack material that's still sitting over there. This will always just sit there until it's needed. Anytime you need to unpack anything, it's going to be what you've already placed. So we'll walk up to it and wave our magic wand. And we've got all of our rebar separated. All the plumbing's in. I'm drawing a wicked blank right now on the boards around the edge. Form. There you go. The forms are all set. So we'll go ahead and rent concrete truck. I'm going to go ahead and grab the small pump truck and the pumper all in one. Takes me a minute to find it on here, but it's convenient. Right there's one. We'll rent this guy. And we're pretty close to the dealership, so we'll drive it right over, get it filled up with concrete. And let's map our job. We're going right over here. That is not an exit. So we're full of concrete already. I did the autofill. As soon as I get there to the dealership, we'll roll up onto the job site and set ourselves up in a position where we can pretty much get a majority of what we need to pump out in one location to have to not set this thing around any more than we have to. Can't remember how long these pump arms are on these, but hopefully it's long enough to get us all of what we need without moving. Might be a little tight with the excavator here. Let's see if it'll let us throw our arms out. Blimey. I'm going to start out reaching to my furthest point, and then I'll work myself closer to the truck. Oh, let's see, the machine is empty. I guess I have to turn pouring on, shoe on. There we go. This is probably, in my opinion, one of the harder things to operate in this game. Got a lot going on with the scissored boom, and then you got your regular boom, and you've got a joint in between. Okay, that's the concrete slab for presumably the single-family house. I'm not sure if this is going to be a garage next to it. We'll go ahead and set ourselves up to our furthest point again. Seems if you suck in too far with it, retracts that hose on you and you have to reset your pumping. Right there seems to be the limit. So we might end up having to reset or see about using the chute part of this. I'm not sure. I haven't used this truck as much as I usually use the independent concrete truck, pump it into a pumper. Use two separate trucks, so I kind of guessing my way through this pump truck and concrete truck all in one. Oh, of course, 93%, and I am empty. I'm going to reset this thing and head back to the gravel pit and just do, I think I can do a partial load. Instead of filling, if I do the autofill, it's going to fill the truck all the way to the top. I can't remember, but I almost want to say the bigger machines are at least $16,000 in concrete. So if I don't have to spend $16,000 in concrete just to fill up my last 8%, I would rather see if I can just fill a little bit of the truck and guess my way to thinking, obviously half a truck is way too much. I can remember which one of these are, that's concrete there. I wouldn't imagine much more than a quarter truck would get me my last little bit here. I'm not sure, but I might be under the asphalt one. Although this one's labeled with a road, so I would assume it to be Spencer construction machine. Why am I not getting concrete? I assume it would pour into that back chute there. There it goes. I guess I just wasn't underneath it in the right spot. Alright, so that's quite a drive back to the job site. That's why I'm fast traveling here. Save a little bit of time. See if we can get ourselves set back up in that same spot. Actually, I can probably grab what I need to grab from right here. That'll keep me out of the job site so we can advance to our next level. Well, now I've got no pouring. So turn this pouring on and off. It's pouring it out into the street. Well, here's what we're going to do. utilize the chute on the back, being it wants to pour out of there instead of out of the pump truck. Let's get the last little bit down the other edge. No. Okay. I guess that's all we need for concrete now that I'm essentially stuck in here. Boy, this truck is going to fight me. I can't get out of the machine. But at least, oh, we're stuck because we have an arm out. Okay, well, that was exhilarating. So, we struggled like crazy to get concrete. We'll jump back in here and place a few more items. Looks like we got a little bit of everything here. Some concrete bags. Pallet of concrete bags. That's right over here. We need one of those. We need pallet of bricks for 4, which is going to be right here. I guess we need, there's 2 parts of this. We're going to need more than 1 pallet. I guess we're separating it into each foundation. Looks like I've got 1 pallet of concrete bags and a pallet of bricks, 2 pallets of bricks for 1 of the foundations. The other foundation calls for 2 pallets of bricks and 4 pallets of bricks and 2 pallets of concrete bags. I'm not sure if I made that any clearer or more confusing. So we've got 2 more pallets of bricks that are going to end up belonging way out on the far side of that, and I know I'm not going to reach it from here. So I'm going to go ahead and set it just as far as I can reach. We'll see if we can't work our way around there after the fact and get those placed where they need to be. There is a crane pad over there in the corner. Not sure if that just appeared. It does just appear when you're ready for the crane. First few steps, they never show that crane pad, and it just kind of appears when you least expect it. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 bags of those. So we've got 1 bag of concrete bags and 2 pallets of brick to go over to the other one. Alright, 1 more pallet of concrete bags. I'm gonna have to see if I can reach over there and get that, get those other 2 placed, or if we're gonna have to go up, get our crane set. I think either way, I'm going to have the crane set at some point in time. Usually these single-family home builds, they do prefabricated walls. So you end up placing pre-done walls for each four walls. And then your roof systems go up kind of complete as well. So even if you wanted to, it's really not much of a project to set up with an excavator. Alright, so I think the answer is quite apparent here. Without tracking it across that concrete, I'm not reaching that far. So we'll set our excavator back over here and we'll go ahead and rent the crane. Get those last couple things set. The good thing is it's a small job site, so we won't have to rent a big crane. We'll rent the smallest one, which is this LH1. Okay, we are all set up. This cab is, I guess, wide open. There's no window. Guess there is no cab. I'm still down there, so maybe these are run remotely in real life, I would assume. But we're still going to use a POV. Maybe we're not, because I can't look down. Oh, no, I can. There. Okay, so that's all set. Now they're asking us to lay bricks, which is essentially the same command as unpacking construction material. It's never going to be the material over there in the corner. It's always going to be the stuff you just set. And they usually got a marker on it saying we're 4, 3, 2, 1 meters from it. Get up to and hit triangle. He waves his magic hands again. And we now have brick walls for our first First wall here, it does seem to be like a garage. And we're going to lay some brick over here. It's not giving me a... There it is. Right, here's the first level of our house. At least the front and this side. And, oh, okay. This is going to lay the rest of it right here. And of course, presumably those bags of concrete are what you're using as your mortar. They should be bags of mortar instead of concrete, in my opinion, but it's cement. But you're laying brick, it's usually mortar. You're using both product essentially to lay the brick and the mortar. In that stage, paid $17,500. I am going to go ahead and wrap it up at that for tonight. I've put plenty of time in. We'll get continued on to the single-family house from 37% on in a part 2 on another night. All right.